Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on in to Sports Talk with Broads. We just watched the craziest basketball game I've ever seen. That was the wildest Game 3 my eyeballs ever witnessed. What the hell was that? Realistically, Joel Embiid should have been kicked out of the game in the beginning when he kicked Nick Claxton when he was on the ground, even though Nick Claxton shouldn't have did the step over. Who the hell are you to think that you could do that to the big man? And it was obvious what the mindset was of Brooklyn. Let's get him pissed off. Let's get into his grill. Let's try and bother him. Let's frustrate him. And to a degree, it kind of worked. It did not look like we got a very engaged Joel Embiid. He was not in his comfort zone. Now, luckily, he's a star that rose to the occasion at the end of the game and had a monster block after Tyrese Maxey had the ball in his hands and said, "Watch what I can do." But you had to deal with James Harden getting kicked out of the game for one of the worst calls in NBA history. You had to deal with an offense that didn't have their primary ball handler. Joel Embiid was in foul trouble, too. He had 5 fouls, so add that to the equation. It was a mess. This was not a game for the Sixers to win. But they are by far a better basketball team than Brooklyn, and that showed. Look, I don't like the fact that it took what it took to win this game, but I do think it shows some sort of toughness. I do think it shows how this team is different than in years past. So let me lay it out to you one more time. Your superstar, Joel Embiid, had 5 fouls, and it wasn't his night. You didn't have James Harden, who was cooking, by the way. He looked like he could do some damage offensively in this one. He did not duplicate his play from Game 2. So he was in his bag. But let's look at the depth and the ability for others to step up. DeAnthony Melton off the bench was fantastic for you, scoring 13 points, 5 of 6 from the field, and had some pretty impressive dunks. Tobias Harris, 15 points. And, of course, Tyrese Maxey with those 10 straight, the three-pointer. It was great, great from so many different players. PJ Tucker keeping the offensive possessions alive, the offensive rebounds. Do you believe me now that PJ Tucker will be just fine? Do you see what I knew would be here? PJ Tucker changes the game. PJ Tucker gives you something that you never had. I'm looking at the fact that the team was able to be there when Joel Embiid wasn't for majority of the game, except for that big block. I don't want to pretend like the block goes unnoticed. That was massive. But for the rest of the time, you were without James Harden and Joel Embiid on the road down in the fourth quarter with a couple minutes of action left, and you won. Sixers teams in the past don't do this. This team does. That's impressive to me. So before you jump to the next series and before you jump to the second round, I'll answer the question for you. No, this probably wouldn't work against the Boston. We'll worry about that when we get there. You know what I think's important right now as we live in the moment? Taking care of business in 4. I don't want to play a Game 5. I don't want to play a Game 6. I don't want Joel Embiid to have to be banging his body around any longer than 4 games to give us the best chance possible to compete with the Boston Celtics. That's what you can control at this particular time. We'll worry about Boston when we get there. Similar with the Tyrese Maxey thing. I don't know how Tyrese Maxey is going to pan out against the Boston Celtics. The Nets, the way they double Joel and bring pressure and all that, at times they're daring the Sixers to beat you in other ways. They're daring Maxey to thrive. Well, he is. Boston won't dare him the same exact way. We'll worry about that when we get there. I'm bringing it up because for right now, all I can do to put this team in the best position possible is hope that Tyrese Maxey balls out so he can feel some confidence rolling into Boston. Let's put ourselves in the best position possible. Well, that would be finishing this off in 4, Saturday afternoon, ending the job, and Tyrese Maxey playing out of control. And P.J. Tucker doing the dirty work. And DeAnthony Melton having his role. Because that's what it's going to take. And for Maxey to do it here, it's unbelievable. It's unreal what he did down the stretch in the fourth quarter. It was winning time. It was his time. Big shots. The ball's on the line. And he delivered. When Joel Embiid was getting double-teamed, they said, all right, Tyrese, okay, Tobias, let's see what you can do. They're up 3-0 on the series. They can clearly do what you're begging them to do. I actually think that Jacques Vaughn, even though I don't think the alternative works, but I would have switched something up by now. And you can look at the fact that how some of the players are targeting Joel and where they're coming from and things of that nature. But ultimately, I think it's worth a shot, even though I don't believe it will essentially end in a win. So I guess you can make the argument that this is stupid for me to even have that much care in the world on what selection you do if you're the Nets, if you know the result is the same. But I think that there would be value in trying something like this. Okay, Joel, I know you can be patient and give the ball to your teammates. But I want you, for the 30-plus minutes of action you're playing, to have to work on the offensive side and work on the defensive side. So, make your shots. Score. Put up 50. I want him to be using his motor. I want him to have to put in the time and effort. You may beat us, but you're going to feel like you went through hell when it's all said and done. I'm going to make you earn it. I'm going to make you beat us. So, when he's constantly scoring and constantly being utilized a little bit more heavily on the offensive side, you play the long game. By his 26th minute, 27th minute, are there a few possessions that he doesn't have as much energy on the defensive side because he had to put in a lot more work on the offensive side compared to just standing there and waiting for the double to come and then finding one of his teammates and passing when he gets the ball at the top of the perimeter or by the nail? You know what I mean? The Sixers still win that basketball game. I believe that. But at what point are you just banging your head in the wall, realizing that this attempt gets you down 0-3 in the series? I don't know. Like I said, it probably doesn't even matter anyway. It's just something that I thought after game 2 I would have done. This game, though, was a coin flip, essentially. So they were in a position, the Nets that is, down the stretch to maybe pull one out. And the Sixers did struggle in the first half of game 2. So if you want to say there was something to it, there was something to it, I guess. But the Sixers won both of those games. The second game they won by double digits, and they were very poor. James Harden turning the ball over a lot. Couldn't make a damn basket. It felt like it was very painful to live that experience. Still won by double digits. I don't know. I'm just throwing garbage at the wall at this point to see if it sticks if I'm Jacques. I don't really care, though, about Jacques Vaughn and the Nets. I care about this Sixer squad. And there was so much that was going on, I couldn't even believe it. Imagine telling yourself that that was what you were going to watch before the ball tipped off. That was absolutely nuts. Nuts. I can't believe Joel didn't get kicked out in the beginning of the game. We asked the Sixers today. We said, Joel, Tyrese, Tobias, PJ, DeAnthony, George Niang, Paul Reed, Doc, show us you're a mature team. And then I said, look at what's going on around the league. Dylan Brooks and that nonsense. Talking trash to LeBron James, the greatest to ever do it. You heard me. Giannis is banged up. Kawhi Leonard's banged up. There's a lot going on in a lot of these series. There's a lot of drama. Draymond Green. We got the Warriors and that series and the way that's playing out. There's so much. It seemed like the Sixers, once again, prior to this game, I'm saying, and the Celtics were just handling their business against their opponents, and the crash course was on its way. Just show us maturity, win game 3, and let's do the job. And then a couple minutes into the game, Joel Embiid's trying to kick below the belt. That was uncalled for by Joel, and that kind of set the tone for the night that he was going to have. On top of grabbing his knee all the time and limping and things of that nature. But he clearly was in his own head. And whether Brooklyn forced him to be in his own head, I don't know. Claxton flexing as if he's somebody in this league. He gets tossed. I wish you could show a little bit more emotions during these high-intensity moments because that's what makes the playoffs, but he's a clown. And you don't flex at a guy who's going to win MVP and one of the most dominant big men that's ever touched a basketball. But I digress. Joel shouldn't have done that. And when we ask for maturity to win a game 3 so you can close it out in 4, and that's what I'm seeing right from the rip, I go, what in the world are we set up for tonight? What did we sign up for? And I didn't expect it to be that ride, but I care about how they finished. And I care about Maxey taking a big step. And I care about Maxey at this time of the year being an option for you like that. Having the killer instinct. You saw his face when he went back to the defensive side of the floor with the big smile and his tongue out, and he was pumped for the big shot. You're going to need him. If you want to win the next round, you need him. Now, I don't know if it's going to be 10 straight in a fourth quarter. It might just be one shot. Maybe Embiid and Tobias or Embiid and Harden are keeping you engaged, keeping you involved in the fourth. Couple minutes to go. The kick out, it might just be 1-3. Doesn't have to be carrying the load like it was tonight because you're going to have different options. And the Celtics will play defensively different. But I'm sure that he looks in the mirror and goes, all right, that felt great. Smelling himself. In a good way, though. You got to smell yourself. You have to know that you're capable. You have to know that you're him. You need that approach. And Maxey clearly had it today when really going uphill and having a tough battle. That was not an easy position to be. Think about this. You're up 2-0. You're going on the road, and you're down. You lose James Harden, and Joel stinks to that point. Isn't it kind of easy to chalk it up to, it's one of those games? Look, it's not our night. So what? We're down 2-1. If we lose this game, we're down 2-1. We can still win on Saturday afternoon, and then we're going back home at the Wells Fargo Center. It could be a gentleman's sweep, and we'll happily live on after. I think it's easy to fold. But P.J. Tucker, a winning player, helps out. Guys on the bench coaching staff on the bench telling Maxey, this is it. Let's go do it. There's a lot here. PJ's presence and just the way he works, man, it's contagious. Those possessions, continuing to live, getting extra shots. You're not telling me that Brooklyn wasn't crushed when you saw a missed shot and you think, hey, they miss it, let's go, let's get up in transition. Here's our time to get another bucket. Let's advance this lead, or let's creep back into this lead. Whether they had the lead at that point or they already lost the lead, but they know that the next possession is crucial. But PJ Tucker goes, come on, dude. You know I've been doing this for a long time. You know I'm going to make this living hell for you. You know you're not going to be able to box me out, and I'll find a way to grab that basketball. George Niang is diving on the floor. Unfortunately, at that time, we thought, I think it was DeAnthony Melton who eventually ended up getting it. He tried to do a Hail Mary pass down the court. It got picked off, and then the Nets ended up taking a three. And it's like, oh, man. How about that foul call late where it's like, dude, Doc had to challenge it because it was 70 seconds late. There was no foul whatsoever. The ball didn't go in. Oh, my God, what are we doing? How bad can we be? With all of the uphill battles, they're up 3-0. It's important because you need as much time as possible for Joel, for James, to get rest, especially if Boston sweeps. And then if they don't, let's say you do and they don't. You can take any advantage you can grab at this time of the year. Whether one game makes a difference or not, I don't know. But I know it can't hurt. So we have to pray that Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks can maybe steal one for us. But this was crucial. Trust me, you don't want to rewatch the tape. This isn't something you want to go back to show the fundamentals of basketball at times. Woof. At times. Woof. They did it. They did it. And for the fans that said, I don't care, get me to the second round, well, then I don't want to hear any heavy reaction. Although I'm proud because I've seen majority of positivity coming out of this. The negativity. Even though maybe tomorrow is a different feel. Joel's lazy. Joel's a bum. Joel's not good. Joel doesn't look interested. I'm sure those takes and those hot takes are going to be flying out of some fraud's mouths at some point. I'm going the other way with it, though, and for the most part, that's what I've seen and the group chat that I'm in. It's more of I'm disappointed in Joel, and that's fine. That's a fair take to have today. I don't like the fact that Joel seemed to be out of the game early. I don't like the fact that it seemed like, he wasn't the dominant Joel Embiid. He stunk today. That's real. You can't escape the fact that he really did have a bad basketball game. Fourth quarter, you need a stop. Joel was there at the rim and made the stop. Once again, it's easy to fold. It's easy to say it's not my night. It's easy to say I can't do what I know I'm capable of doing. I am struggling. And pack it in. He didn't pack it in. He met you at the rim, and he made sure you went up 3-0. I value that. So, let's talk about it. What just happened? Oh, my screen got minimized. I thought it got exited out. Oh, my Lord, that would have been devastating. All right, let's talk about it. Let's do this. Let's go to the phones.
Man, what a game. I mean, it should not have been that close, but when you don't have James Harden for the whole fourth quarter because the refs don't know what a flagrant one or a flagrant two is, what Embiid did was literally worse, and he didn't get ejected, but Harden gets ejected for leading his arm and hitting the dude, but whatever. I'm glad we found a way to win. Embiid was a huge block there in the end. Tyrese Maxey is a stud. What a steal. 20 overall pick or something like that, 16th overall. What a steal. We better sweep. They are not that good.
No, they're not good at all. And the problem is a lot of their numbers deal with when Kevin Durant was there, when Kyrie Irving was there. After those trades happened, this is a completely different team, and we kind of knew that, right? Mikal Bridges is a fun and exciting player. Plus, we have some ties to him because of him playing at Villanova and all, and he's become a nice player that I think his skill set can transition into being a really, really, really good go-to player in this league. But not now. He's not ready to carry a team against a Philadelphia 76er squad who's this ready to legitimately compete for the end goal. So this is a good stepping stone for Mikal Bridges, but they don't have players like that. This is what they needed to do to try and steal one. They had to rough it up. They had to make it ugly. They had to throw shots at Embiid to try and get him out of his game. And unfortunately, I think Joel Embiid took the bait and then had a tough time getting back on track. He did, though, for one final block. He did, though. But when you have to rely on that being your answer and your game plan, what you scheme up, you're toast. You're not going to really do anything. That's your last call. It's the desperation thing. And we knew that the moment Jacque Vaughn, after Game 1, keep in mind, Game 1 was a night where everything was rolling. It was actually an afternoon. It was that Saturday afternoon game. The team, from every angle, was really sharp. They got blown out of the water, and a lot of the players had a smooth box score. His takeaway was there were too many times in his eyes that Joel Embiid got away with the 3-second violation. 3-second violation? Hold on a second. You watched that game and you thought the difference in getting blown out by 20 points was a 3-second violation? And the fact that Embiid's getting... No. You're done. This is over. I knew in that moment. I knew before that moment. I knew the moment I saw that the Sixers were playing the Nets. But you get my point. That's when a coach basically admits to his team, whether he wants to admit it or not, that's when he's publicly stating, we're screwed. And then when I saw their tactic to start Game 3, it said, oh yeah, they're really screwed. They're digging. They're searching. They're looking for any possible thing. They're getting real low. I guess you got to do what you got to do. But it tells you everything you need to know. All right. Back to the phones.
Bros, love this show. Way to go, Philadelphia 76ers. Put the Nets out of their misery. The Nets ought to auction off their team. Do the right thing for New York City. Give their best players to the Knicks. And then fade away to the New York skyline. The rest of the bums on that team, put them in the G League. What an embarrassing loss. Nets, just go away. Go Philly.
Look, I mean, I got no problem with some of the Nets players like Mikal Bridges, and I don't really hate Cam Johnson. It's not a team that I despise, like Jared Dudley. I hate it. I don't like Nick Claxton, but I like Mikal Bridges, and I guess that's really it. I mean, I don't like the fact that Cam Johnson dunked on Joel Embiid in this series, but I don't really hate anybody. I've hated players more. I hate Ben Simmons, but he's not even a basketball player anymore at this point in his career. It is embarrassing, though, when you have a possession in the NBA playoffs and you're out of bounds and you have to, wait for it, inbound the basketball. You would think you could make a pass. You would think you could, wait for it, put it in the hands of one of your teammates. Instead, here goes the Sixers, picks it up nice and easy, and there's another two. So, yeah, they crumbled. They folded. But that's what's supposed to happen when you don't have enough talent. Spencer Dinwiddie ain't cutting it. that doesn't have a shot of beating this team. And that's just what it is. But you're right, Brooklyn embarrassing. I didn't expect it to be much of like a crucial home court advantage. I've heard louder places this time of the year. Plus, not too far away from here. So I don't know. I didn't really see any shots or any panning of the crowd of how many Sixers fans were there. I did hear when Joel Embiid was dapping up Tyrese Maxey when he was getting interviewed by NBC Sports Philadelphia, and then Joel Embiid was walking back to the locker room. I heard so many damn MVP chants, but that could just be the limited amount of Sixers fans that were in the building going towards the floor when the game was over to make sure that Embiid gets his praise for what he is inevitably going to win. I don't know. I didn't really hear much Sixers takeover during the broadcast or whatnot. I thought maybe heading into the game it would be a little loud, like you could recognize some Sixers fans going nuts, and you could hear maybe the "Let's go Sixers," and then Brooklyn fans start booing and go boo because you're taking over their building. I didn't hear anything like that unless I just completely missed it. But it wasn't anything overwhelming, I could tell you that for free. It wasn't anything that could scare this crew. I mean, they're going to find a way down 5 with 2 and change to go without James. Basically without Joel. Hate to admit that. I do. Even though his presence matters, him just standing on the floor makes the defense have to really shift their attention, which opens up a lot of other options. It was a rough watch for him. He just looked. I don't know if the kick and the possible flagrant 2, which it should have been, just threw him off the ledge or threw him in for a loop. But he looked lost. It's weird. I'm just not used to it. Doesn't sit right with me. But I could imagine some inspired Joel Embiid is going to show on Saturday to make up for it and to put this to bed. Let's go back and listen to the people.
That was the weirdest game of playoff basketball I think I've ever watched. This whole series has kind of been wonky with like the Sixers arguably not playing very well in both games 2 and 3, but they got it done. Tyrese Maxey, man, what a player he has become. He has really grown kind of so much, and he's able to make clutch shots like that. But I feel game 4 is must win. If you remember last year, Embiid broke his face because we were not able to finish the Raptors in 4 or 5 games. So tomorrow, let's not do any funny business. Let's just close the series out. One more thing, playoff basketball is just so much fun to watch, man.
I agree. I've been addicted to a lot of these playoffs, this and the NHL. But you're absolutely right. When you had to play the Raptors in more games, the series prolonged, and then that put you in a position where guys can get injured, and then Siakam throws an elbow, and the whole thing ended up happening. You close the door, and you shut it off right now, and you just let them get the time, especially if other series go a little bit longer. You're going to wait and kind of give yourself a chance to maybe regroup a tad. So, yeah, that's an excellent point there. So you brought up the last 2 games, though. It's been bad basketball. They had a bad half in the first half of Game 2. That second half of Game 2, they held the Brooklyn Nets to 35 points total. I believe the Nets only scored 14 points in that third quarter. They changed their approach in that second half of Game 2. So I don't want to say the entire game was bad because I don't think that was the case. I think James Harden stunk. Yeah, 14 points in the third quarter. You're doing something right. That was after Doc caught a timeout 60 seconds into that frame. 35. You're doing something right. When James, though, looks as sloppy as he did in the first half, well, of course, your floor general is having a difficult time setting everybody up. It's probably going to look like a disaster. But when they turned the switch on and defensively things changed, some guys were doing their jobs really well on that end of the floor. Doc making decisions schematically for whatever it's worth. So they played one bad game in Game 3 and a bad half in Game 2. They played a great Game 1 and a great second half in Game 2. So that puts them even with the good and the bad. They end up going cruise control in Game 4 because Brooklyn realizes that they're dead. Then we just move on to the next one and then see where that takes us in a very, 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 very intense matchup with Boston. All right, it's enough of me. You got my thoughts on what the hell that was, which was one of the craziest things I've ever witnessed. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. We'll be talking soon. Phillies stink, by the way. What the hell was that garbage? Talk to you guys later.